What if I told you that one of the most powerful brain support windows you have every single day is not happening in a doctor's office, is not coming from a prescription bottle, and is not costing you hundreds of dollars a month in supplements? What if I told you it happens every single night while you sleep, and that what you eat in the 2 hours before you close your eyes could either support brain aging or actively work against it? Here is what most people over 60 have been told, either directly or by implication. Memory changes, brain fog, and cognitive shifts are simply an inevitable consequence of getting older. Something you accept and manage. But the emerging science is telling a very different story. The aging brain is not a broken machine. It is a machine that is being undersupported, starved of the right nutrients, the right cellular fuel, and the right biological environment to repair itself efficiently. And the window right before sleep, when your brain is preparing to do its most important overnight housekeeping, may be the most strategically underutilized window in all of health. Tonight, we are going to talk about 3 specific fruits. Not exotic superfoods you cannot find or afford. 3 accessible, scientifically studied fruits that, when eaten at the right time and in the right way, can give your brain exactly what it needs to function at its best overnight. And then I am going to share a 4th piece that almost no brain health video ever discusses, the cellular fuel your brain needs that food alone cannot fully provide after the age of 60. Before you think this is vague wellness content, I want to be clear. We are going to walk through actual physiology, mitochondria, neurotrophic factors, the glymphatic system, melatonin, and we are going to look at research published in journals including neurology, Alzheimer's and dementia, frontiers in aging neuroscience, and frontiers in psychology. Your brain deserves real science, delivered in a way you can actually act on. Around the time you cross 60, several critical systems in your brain begin to shift simultaneously. Your brain's ability to produce BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, essentially your brain's growth hormone and the molecule responsible for building new neural connections and keeping existing neurons alive, begins to decline. Your glymphatic system, your brain's dedicated overnight waste clearance mechanism, becomes less efficient. Your gut microbiome, which communicates directly with your brain through what scientists call the gut-brain axis, shifts in ways that reduce the production of key neurochemicals. And your mitochondria, the tiny power generators inside every brain cell, begin accumulating damage faster than your brain's repair systems can address. Now here is why what you eat before bed matters so specifically. The glymphatic system is your brain's night shift cleaning crew. During deep sleep, it pumps cerebrospinal fluid through the spaces between brain cells, sweeping out amyloid beta plaques, tau proteins, and metabolic waste products that, if allowed to accumulate, are directly linked to Alzheimer's disease and accelerated cognitive decline. This system operates almost exclusively during deep sleep. It is largely inactive during waking hours. If you go to bed having consumed something that disrupts this process, a blood sugar spike, inflammatory compounds, alcohol, you compromise the entire night's repair cycle. But if you give your brain the specific building blocks it needs to support this process, you amplify it. The science is pointing clearly to a window of approximately 1 to 2 hours. The question is not just what 2 hours before sleep as the optimal time to deliver these brain-supportive compounds. Where in the world are you watching from right now? Drop your city and country in the comments. We have viewers spanning many countries, and seeing this community connect is genuinely motivating. Subscribe if you have not already, and let us get into the science. Fruit number 1, pomegranate. Mitochondrial repair and the urolithin connection. The first fruit is pomegranate. And I want to explain this one carefully because what happens inside your body after you eat it, at the biochemical level, is genuinely extraordinary. And it starts not in your mouth but in your gut. Imagine your brain cells as factories. Inside every factory, there are thousands of tiny power generators called mitochondria. These mitochondria produce the energy your neurons need to fire signals, consolidate memories, and think clearly. As you age, some of these generators become damaged. They start malfunctioning. They produce toxic byproducts instead of clean energy. Your brain has a natural quality control process for identifying and removing these damaged mitochondria, a process called mitophagy. When mitophagy works well, damaged generators get cleared and replaced. When it fails, they accumulate, release inflammatory signals, and interfere with the functioning of the entire factory. This is one of the central mechanisms studied in relation to Alzheimer's disease and age-related cognitive decline. Pomegranates contain polyphenolic compounds called elagitannins and ellagic acid. When these compounds reach your gut, certain species of beneficial bacteria convert them into a metabolite called urolithin A. Urolithin A is, based on current research, one of the most potent natural activators of mitophagy studied to date. A landmark study published in Alzheimer's and Dementia by researchers from the University of Copenhagen, in collaboration with the National Institute on Aging, found that urolithin A improved learning and memory, reduced neuroinflammation, and restored brain mitophagy and lysosomal function in multiple study models. The researchers found that urolithin A's effectiveness at clearing damaged mitochondria was comparable to NAD supplements, widely considered among the most studied neuroprotective compounds in modern longevity research. Here is the timing piece that makes pomegranate particularly strategic before bed. The conversion of elagitannins to urolithin A takes several hours. When you eat pomegranate 1 to 2 hours before sleep, urolithin production peaks roughly during the early hours of deep sleep, exactly when your glymphatic system is most active and your brain is doing its deepest overnight cellular maintenance. You are essentially timing your food to synchronize with your brain's own repair schedule. Practical protocol: aim for roughly half to a whole pomegranate's worth of arils in the evening. If pomegranate is not accessible, 4 to 6 ounces of pure pomegranate juice with no added sugar is a viable alternative. Pair it with a small amount of healthy fat, a few walnuts or a tablespoon of olive oil on a small salad, because the polyphenol in pomegranate are better absorbed in the presence of dietary fat. If your gut microbiome is not in optimal shape, the conversion to urolithin A may be less efficient initially, which is one reason supporting your microbiome through prebiotic fiber and fermented foods is part of the broader picture. Fruit number 2, blueberries, BDNF, memory consolidation, and the blood-brain barrier. The second fruit is blueberries. And while blueberries have been discussed in wellness circles for years, I want to go past the surface conversation and into the neuroscience, because what these berries do to the aging brain is more targeted and more specific than most people appreciate. The key compounds in blueberries are their anthocyanins, particularly cyanidin and delphinidin, which belong to a class of phytonutrients called flavonoids. Flavonoids have a unique ability that most other dietary compounds do not. They can cross the blood-brain barrier, the protective membrane surrounding your brain that filters what enters. Most substances do not make it through. Flavonoids do. And once inside the brain, they go to work in several coordinated ways. A 2021 study published in Neurology, one of the most respected medical journals in neuroscience, analyzed the dietary patterns of tens of thousands of men and women over many years and found that flavonoids, particularly the anthocyanins found in blueberries, were associated with a 24% reduction in risk of cognitive decline. The study found that as little as half a serving per day of anthocyanin-rich foods produced measurable benefits in brain age measures. But the deeper mechanism is what matters most. Blueberry anthocyanins directly upregulate BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of BDNF as your brain's fertilizer. It promotes the growth of new neurons, strengthens existing neural connections, and protects brain cells from damage. Multiple studies have shown that blueberry supplementation elevates BDNF levels in the hippocampus, the brain region most responsible for memory formation and most studied in relation to Alzheimer's disease. A 2023 clinical study published in Frontiers in Psychology found that polyphenol-rich blueberry extract produced significant improvements in episodic memory and cognitive function in older adults with mild cognitive impairment, linking these improvements to upregulation of BDNF and neuronal signaling proteins directly involved in memory consolidation. The timing before bed matters for blueberries specifically because your brain consolidates memories during sleep, particularly during the REM and slow-wave cycles that occur in the early hours of the night. Research shows that the elevation in BDNF that anthocyanins produce is not instantaneous. Cerebral blood flow increases measurably after consuming flavonoid-rich foods, with peak effects occurring roughly 2 hours after ingestion. When you eat blueberries approximately 90 minutes to 2 hours before sleep, you are creating a peak in BDNF activity and cerebral blood flow that coincides precisely with the brain's most active memory consolidation phase. Practical protocol: half a cup to a full cup of fresh or frozen blueberries in the evening. Frozen blueberries are equally effective and in some studies slightly higher in antioxidant content, because they are harvested and frozen at peak ripeness. You can eat them plain, mix them into a small serving of plain Greek yogurt for the added benefit of tryptophan and probiotic bacteria, or blend them into a small smoothie with spinach and almond milk. Avoid sweetened blueberry products. The glucose spike counteracts the neuroprotective benefits by disrupting sleep architecture and elevating cortisol. You want the anthocyanin load, not the sugar load. Fruit number 3, kiwi, the sleep architecture fruit that activates brain repair. The third fruit surprises most people. It does not get the same press as blueberries, and it does not have the exotic reputation of pomegranate. But what kiwi fruit does for your brain starts with sleep, and the downstream effects on cognitive repair are more profound than most people appreciate. Here is the fundamental insight. Your brain cannot repair itself effectively without deep, high-quality sleep. This is not a soft wellness statement. The glymphatic system, your brain's waste clearance network, operates almost exclusively during slow-wave deep sleep. When you do not reach deep sleep, or when you cycle through it too briefly, your brain accumulates amyloid beta and tau proteins at an accelerated rate. Sleep is literally the janitor shift for your brain. When the janitor does not show up, the debris accumulates. After 60, melatonin production drops significantly. By age 70, melatonin levels can be less than half of what they were at 30. This explains why so many older adults struggle to fall asleep, stay asleep, or feel genuinely rested in the morning. And here is what that melatonin decline actually means for your brain. You enter slow-wave sleep less efficiently, you spend less time in the phases where memory consolidation and glymphatic clearance happen most actively, and your brain's overnight repair cycle becomes shortened. Kiwi fruit contains naturally occurring melatonin, approximately 24 micrograms per gram, as well as measurable concentrations of serotonin, which serves as melatonin's direct biochemical precursor. Additionally, kiwi is rich in tryptophan, phenylalanine, and glutamic acid, amino acid precursors to your brain's key neurochemicals including dopamine, serotonin, and GABA. This is not just a fruit. It is in effect a neurochemical toolkit delivered in a convenient, accessible package. A study published in Frontiers in Nutrition demonstrated that consuming kiwi fruit with the evening meal significantly increased measurable concentrations of both serotonin and melatonin metabolites compared to a control group, with improvements in mood, morning alertness, and reduced sleep disturbance. The mechanism involves kiwi's unique combination of serotonin precursors and an enzyme called actinidin that enhances amino acid absorption in the gut, creating an earlier and more sustained peak of neurochemical precursors that the brain converts into melatonin and GABA during the sleep transition. A landmark study found that adults who ate 2 kiwis 1 hour before bedtime regularly experienced increased time spent in slow-wave deep sleep, the exact stage where the glymphatic system is most active. Memory consolidation is occurring most intensively, and brain cell repair is happening at its highest rate. Think through the chain reaction. You eat kiwi before bed, serotonin levels rise, serotonin converts to melatonin, melatonin signals your circadian system to initiate deep sleep activates the glymphatic system, the glymphatic system clears amyloid plaques and inflammatory debris. Simultaneously, your hippocampus consolidates the day's memories. You wake up sharper, clearer, and with a brain that has genuinely been cleaned and reset overnight. This is not a metaphor. This is the literal physiology of what eating the right food at the right time can do for your aging brain. Practical protocol: 2 medium green kiwi fruits approximately 1 hour before bed. Leave the skin on if you can tolerate it. The skin contains 3 times the fiber and additional polyphenol. If the texture is uncomfortable, blend the whole kiwi into a small smoothie. Pair if you like with a few tart cherries or a small glass of tart cherry juice, which contains natural melatonin and anthocyanins, for a synergistic effect on both sleep quality and brain protection. Why your brain needs creatine, the ATP connection nobody discusses. Now I want to share the piece of this brain health conversation that almost nobody addresses. And it is the piece that explains why some people make every dietary improvement we have discussed and still feel like mental clarity is just out of reach. Still feel like the brain fog lifts partially but never completely. Still feel like memory and focus are not quite responding the way they should. Your brain is the most energy-intensive organ in your body. Although it represents only about 2% of your total body weight, it consumes approximately 20% of your body's total energy output. And every single cognitive function, every memory retrieval, every moment of concentration, every decision, every word you search for, is powered by ATP, adenosine triphosphate. The same energy currency that powers your muscles powers your neurons. Your brain regenerates ATP using creatine, the same compound your muscles rely on. And here is what almost no brain health content discusses. After the age of 50, your body's natural creatine synthesis declines. Your brain's creatine stores, which are critical for sustained cognitive function, mental stamina, and the energy-intensive processes of memory consolidation and neural repair that happen during sleep, may be running at a genuine deficit. Not because of disease. Not because of anything you did wrong. Simply because of normal biological aging. Research consistently shows that adequate creatine levels support brain ATP production and are associated with measurably better cognitive performance in older adults, including improvements in short-term memory, processing speed, mental stamina under stress, and resistance to mental fatigue. A study involving older adults who supplemented with creatine for 6 weeks showed meaningful improvements in memory and cognitive performance compared to a placebo group. The mechanism is direct. More available creatine means more efficient ATP regeneration in neurons, which means your brain has the energy to perform the repair and consolidation work it does during sleep more completely. And here is the connection to everything we have discussed tonight. The 3 fruits support the glymphatic clearance environment, the BDNF levels, and the sleep architecture your brain needs. Creatine provides the cellular fuel that powers the actual execution of those repair processes at the neuronal level. Kiwi helps you reach deeper sleep. Blueberries elevate the BDNF that strengthens neurons during that sleep. Pomegranate drives mitophagy that clears damaged cellular machinery. And creatine ensures your brain cells have the energy to carry out each of those processes efficiently. These are not alternatives. They are partners. Why verified creatine matters, especially for brain health. I want to address the creatine product I recommend specifically, and I want to do so with the same level of transparency that I apply to the nutritional science in this video. Because the creatine supplement market has a serious problem that directly affects how much benefit you actually receive. An independent investigation published in Nutraceuticals World found that 67% of creatine gummies on the market contain virtually no functional creatine after the manufacturing process. The reason is that creatine is heat sensitive. During gummy production, the cooking temperatures convert creatine into creatinine, a waste product your kidneys excrete. Most brands test their ingredients before cooking and put those numbers on the label. After cooking, the creatine is largely gone. The label is based on pre-manufacturing measurements. The product you receive is a different story entirely. FusiForce by Wellness Nest took a fundamentally different approach. They spent 10 months developing a manufacturing process that preserves creatine through the cooking phase. And they verify the result by sending every single production batch to Urolithin, one of the world's most respected food safety and nutritional analysis laboratories, for post-manufacturing testing. Every certificate of analysis is published on their website. Every batch. Every result. Nothing hidden. The verified result, 99% pure creatine monohydrate. 5,000 milligrams, the full clinical dose, in just 3 gummies per day. NSF certified for sport. FusiForce also includes 50 milligrams of standardized Panax ginseng root extract at 10% ginsenosides per serving, something no other creatine gummy on the market includes. Panax ginseng at this standardization has been shown in peer-reviewed studies to support sustained energy, reduce mental and physical fatigue, and enhance cognitive clarity and focus in older adults. For someone already supporting their brain health with the fruits we discussed tonight, adding verified creatine and standardized ginseng addresses the cellular energy dimension that food alone cannot fully reach. Individual serving pouches for freshness. Free of gluten, soy, added sugar, fillers, and hormones. Wild blueberry and green apple flavors. 90-day money-back guarantee on every order. The link to their published Eurofins laboratory reports is in the description below. Check the reports before you decide. Verify the numbers yourself. Then decide. That is exactly the approach I take with every recommendation I make on this channel. The synergy, 3 fruits, 3 mechanisms, 1 brain. Let me bring everything together because the real power here is not in any single fruit, it is in understanding how these 3 work together as a coordinated system during your overnight brain repair cycle. The kiwi initiates the serotonin-melatonin cascade that deepens your sleep architecture, allowing your brain to reach and sustain the slow-wave stages where repair is most active. The blueberries deliver anthocyanins across the blood-brain barrier, elevating BDNF levels precisely as your brain enters its memory consolidation phase during those deep sleep cycles. And the pomegranate is feeding your gut bacteria the ellagic acid they need to produce urolithin A overnight, the compound that stimulates mitophagy in your brain cells, clearing out damaged mitochondria, and reducing neuroinflammation at the cellular level while everything else is happening. Creatine provides the ATP fuel that powers the execution of all 3 of those processes at the neuronal level. 3 fruits and 1 cellular fuel supplement. 3 distinct but complementary mechanisms. All operating in synchrony with your body's natural overnight repair cycle. And this matters more after 60 than at any other time of life. Before 60, your body has enough compensatory mechanisms to partially buffer against suboptimal nutrition. After 60, those buffers are thinner. BDNF is lower. Glymphatic efficiency has declined. Gut microbiome diversity has decreased. Melatonin production has dropped. Creatine synthesis is reduced. The margin for error narrows, and this is precisely when strategic, carefully timed nutritional support becomes essential rather than optional. On blood sugar safety, all 3 fruits have relatively low to moderate glycemic profiles. Blueberries have a glycemic index of approximately 53. Kiwi is around 50. Pomegranate seeds are around 18. These are not the fruits that will spike insulin at night. If you are diabetic or highly insulin sensitive, pairing them with a small amount of protein or healthy fat, Greek yogurt, a handful of walnuts, a tablespoon of almond butter, will blunt any glucose response and keep your insulin stable through the night, which is itself neuroprotective. A note on tart cherries. Montmorency tart cherries contain both melatonin and anthocyanins and have shown meaningful improvements in sleep duration and quality in peer-reviewed studies, along with reductions in inflammatory markers. A small glass of pure tart cherry juice paired with or in rotation with the 3 primary fruits can be a meaningful addition to your evening protocol. Your brain is not passively aging, and Eleanor's story. I want to share one final story because it is, in many ways, the reason I made this video. I will call her Eleanor. 78 years old, from the southeast. Eleanor came to see me frightened in a way that was palpable. Her mother had developed Alzheimer's in her early 70s. Her older sister had been diagnosed 4 years prior. She said quietly, "I feel like I am just waiting for it to happen to me." She was living in anticipatory grief. We talked for a long time. We discussed everything the current science suggests can support brain health and cognitive resilience in aging adults: sleep quality, physical activity, social connection, intellectual engagement, and nutrition. Among the most significant changes she implemented was eating kiwi and blueberries approximately 90 minutes before bed each evening, adding pomegranate arils to her dinner routine 4 nights a week, and beginning daily creatine supplementation alongside consistent gentle resistance exercise. 2 years later, Eleanor returned for a follow-up. She walked into the room differently, taller, more present. She told me that for the first time in years, she had stopped feeling like a passenger in her own health story. Her sleep had improved dramatically. She was sleeping through the night regularly for the first time in years. Her mental clarity felt sharper. Her joints ached less. And she said something I have thought about many times since: I feel like I am actually fighting back. That is what we are looking for. Not the absence of age, but the confidence that we are doing something meaningful to protect what matters most. Your brain is not passively aging. It is actively either repairing or declining every single night, based in part on the biological environment you create before you go to sleep. Tonight, you know what some of those signals are. 3 accessible fruits. 1 verified supplement. A simple protocol that takes less than 5 minutes and costs less than most people spend on coffee. Your challenge for tonight: pick one of the 3 fruits, eat it approximately 1 hour before bed, and do it consistently for 2 weeks. Track your sleep. Track your mental clarity in the morning. Track whether the brain fog you may have accepted as normal begins to shift. Because the evidence suggests it will. If this video gave you something real today, please tap the like button. It helps us reach more seniors who need exactly this information. Subscribe so you never miss new content. And leave a comment below: how old are you, and which of these 3 fruits are you going to start with tonight? I read every single one. The link for FusiForce creatine is in the description. The published Eurofins lab reports are there. Read them. Your brain is one of your most precious assets. Let us protect it together, one evidence-based decision at a time. Stay strong. I will see you in the next video.